Good evening. Whether you are joining us virtually or in person, we welcome you to Poets Corner and here at Scarritt, Bennett, our monthly gathering where poets share their work. Poets Corner has been presented here at Scarritt, Bennett for over 10 years and is one of the many programs offered through the Soul Work program area. Check out our website at www.scarrittbennett.org for more opportunities to engage in our community. In fact, this weekend, I want to invite you to the Mardi Gras Community Dinner that will be in our historic Susie Gray Dining Hall. That will be at 5 o'clock for a mere $20 for a major meal. Shrimp and andouille and sausage and some beef and all kinds of things, even a king cake. You will not go away hungry, I can guarantee you. And then the jazz service that follows every Sunday evening is free to come at 6:30 and enjoy about 45 minutes of jazz and poetry and word. We want to thank our donors who sponsor this program and other programs where we can bring these poets to you. If you want to help support Scarritt Bennett, please see the QR code on your screen or visit scarrittbennett.org/donate. We are pleased to introduce you to our featured poet tonight, Mimi Pantelides. No? Yes, Pantelides. I didn't say it right yet. Mimi is a former modern dancer, dance teacher, and biomechanics coach. When her daughters were born, she returned to her first love, horses. She went back to college to expand her teaching skills to include horseback riding and became certified in centered riding, and then moved to Franklin, where she and her family established Rowantree Farm. During that time, Mimi was composing poems and stories. Now she and her husband, Sokrates, live on Music Row, and their daughters and their families live in Nashville and in Atlanta. For the first time, in December of 2020, Mimi read selections from her first book, The Forest for the Trees, at our Poets Corner. A second book, created in collaboration with wildlife photographer Charles Bow, is in collaboration right now, and will soon be publishing it. And I want to tell you, there's a sample here, and it is absolutely gorgeous. I look forward to getting a copy when it's published. Selections from her third book will be read at Poets Corner tonight. So please welcome Mimi.
Thanks so much, Sue.
Thank you.
Wow, I think I should have you come ahead of me wherever I go. I feel grand. Welcome. Thank you for coming tonight. Delightful to see you. As Sue said, I'm reading selections from 3 separate books. A lot of it is about nature, trees, the creatures that are around us, and the conclusions that we can draw therefrom. The first one is called Birdsong. Birdsong. What is it like to fly? To not be afraid to fall? What about singing so loud, so clear, a shattering whistle 100 times your size? What is it like to wait in full confidence for the ringing reply you know must come? And I have 3 poems that may end up somewhere together at another point, because they all start with the words, "Did ya ever?" The first one is called Fire. Did you ever blow on a match to put out a flame? It works. and all that remains of the fire is a glowing ember. When you hold the flint under a dribble of water from the kitchen gooseneck faucet, all you hear is a short hiss, and it is gone, cold enough to discard in the trash, cold enough that it may not have burned at all. Did you ever burn leaves in the backyard? We would rake our white oak's blunt-fingered leaves into long berms on the winding gravel drive and set them alight. When coals had formed like the glowing flints of 1,000 matches, we would throw acorns in to hear them explode like the report of a rifle. But blow on that flame, and it could suddenly leap out of control. Hot tongues of flame and little live coals from exploding acorns easily escaped to the leaf cover not yet raked. One fall day, a sudden west wind swooped in and turned our long, carefully shaped shock of leaves into a roaring blaze, which caught not just the nearby leaves, but also the family car, and in no time caused the gas can sitting there to explode. Nothing like little pops of bursting acorns, but more like our whole world had suddenly turned to gas, heat, and fire. The fire truck summoned was on the way, but not arrived before the flaming car parts had ignited the cedar shakes on the house roof. That is when I remembered that ironic look of burned-out houses. You've seen them before. The only thing still standing? Their chimneys. Fortunately, the pumper truck roared up the drive by then and pumped gallons of water over the roof, the car, and our neat snake of blackened leaves. Soon the fire was out, and the next day, after hours of hissing, smoking, cracking, and sighing, the fire was out, cold enough to touch, to walk through, but never cold enough to erase what was left of our confidence in fire. True story, by the way. Next poem is just called Tree. Did you ever hug a tree? Ha, not me. Except when I was 3, and then 'cause we were playing hide and seek, I hugged an oak so it would hide me. Well, I do remember when I was 13, leaning my tear-hot face on my hands on the same rough bark of the tree, the self-same oak who hid me at 3. Oh, and there was a time, how old was I, took a book to that tree when the day was long and no one needed me. Sitting down at the root, found a place between its knees. Oh, ancient tree, that time it hugged me. Bark warm, comforting between my shoulder blades, yet cutting hard against my back, spine to spine, its roots deep, searching the vitals of our earth. Its solid living bark, skin soft in the core, with fibers running unsullied from root to crown, delivering water, its life's blood, to tender leaves open to the sky and sun. Not a thing that's extra nor unneedful, every structure informed by gravity, its form dictated by natural forces to grow in fullness to its ever-increasing height. Tons of heavy structural wood, seemingly immovable, and therefore dead like stone. But there is the error, human indeed, to assume, for instead that tree must be a sentient being. It grows, it heals its wounds, and changes with the seasons. And proof of all proof, it nurtured me, was father, mother, confidant, and friend, and with its stern bulk, a pastor teaching by example for the life of me. So I guess I'm wrong, for though I thought not, I did hug a tree. And here's our last Did You Ever? The name of the poem is Crosswise. Did you ever walk out your front door, knowing yourself comfortably, and return from your outing with a disturbed sense that you are not the same person who left a short time before. That a mystery has poked itself into the fabric of your life, as of now inexplicable, has turned you into a detective because you can't stand not to know what mysterious story was wound around a box, a cane, and a shawl. 3 lonely objects lying on a concrete stair, that stair connecting the street to the parking lot behind the back door of the school. The stair is oh so familiar, as your children used to go there and you would drive up to deposit them every morning of the week. On this particular morning, as I walked by with my companion, the stair piqued our interest. This time, on the concrete stair, lay an odd collection of objects, notable since they were certainly not the chalk chunks and hieroglyphs, tree branch forts, and scrap fabrics left by the summer camp preschoolers. These objects were left behind by an adult. A plastic box, 8 by 12 by 3 inches high, containing a book and papers and a rumpled garment, most likely cotton with a Liberty print I recognized, and lying crosswise from one step to another was a dark and shiny, well-worn cane. Stout, rubber-tipped, about 3 feet long. What an odd collection to leave behind. Though the objects were inanimate, simply lying on the stair, somehow they sent a chill on that hot summer day, one that could not be dispelled. From that day, the story continued, because of course we had to go back, my walking companion and I. On the second day, oddly, the box, garment, and cane still lay there untouched. Odd. The next day we went again. Sure enough, lying there still, unmoved, unclaimed, seemingly unremarked upon, except of course by us. The 4th day brought rain. Before we set out, it stopped, but we brought umbrellas just in case. Would you believe the things were still there, the same as before on the concrete stair, but the box held half an inch of water, and the book in the box, sodden now, was open to the title page, saying in big block letters, "Just for today." The first day, the objects sparked curiosity. Why would someone leave them behind just there? Were they coming back to retrieve their box and cane and their flowered wrap, used for comfort in the overcooled air of the school, but certainly not needed out in the 90-degree heat? By the second day, it spoke of something accidental or sinister. Someone using a cane doesn't suddenly cast it aside, miraculously healed of their infirmity. Not in this day and age. The third day was even more remarkable. The collection spoke of work interrupted, of educational pursuits. Probably a woman, since few men wear Liberty prints. The box looked like it had held homemade muffins, cookies, or art supplies, but was returning home with used papers and a book. A 3-foot-high cane speaks of a person of average height, and its stoutness proves it wasn't for show. Dropped haplessly across the concrete stair suggests it wasn't thoughtfully placed. And oh, irony, that sodden paperback book should proclaim, "Just for today," the anonymous group mantra for resisting the destructive temptations of daily life. To save themselves, those folks repeat, "Just for today, just for today." But in this case, it appears just for today didn't help. Some disaster happened outside the brick school on the concrete stair, and just for today became a whole 5-day stretch when nobody noticed. Nobody returned to retrieve those well-used, kindly objects, and we only walked by. We're sorry and do care that someone so kindly should suffer so unexpected a blow that their wrap, book, and cane should be forgotten and rained on, left to disintegrate, drowned in a half-inch of rain. The fact they were soaked makes it final. No one is coming back for them, for those humble objects no longer needed. The phrase, just for today, won't mean the same for me again. It will carry the weight of the mysterious case of the discarded cane, the wrap, and the book that said, just for today. And we never did find out. Again, most of these things are based on true stories. They're true things that happened to us, and my little mind turned them around and added a little music. To lighten the mood, this next poem is called Really? Often people say that trees are standing still, but really? They are all busily growing up. It is we distracted humans who rush around on the ground and forget to grow up. So, here for the trees. This next little ditty is called The Edge of the Sidewalk. On this occasion, I was walking home, arm in arm with a friend, when what did I see but the oddest thing lying just at the edge of the sidewalk? At first I saw it, but thought, no, it couldn't be. It was not the kind of thing you see on any sidewalk I have ever walked on. And what was it, you might ask, that could be discarded on the grassy verge right next to the sidewalk that would cause such a stir, such a violent reaction that we had to stop and stare? I hate to admit it took so long to attach a name to this singular object. The first words I said out loud were, "It can't be, can it?" So we stopped to take a closer look. It was indeed the strangest thing, not rock or stick, not ball or toy, not mud either, because if you looked closely, it shone. Suddenly it dawned on me, this object, out of place in time and experience, not near a house or restaurant or market or anywhere else that would require fruit. This humble, lonely object was nothing but an avocado. Nothing more, no less. My friend walking with me didn't agree, so he stepped on it. It squashed, and suddenly we had the beginnings of guacamole. No doubt now, it was absolutely an avocado, a ripe one too. It had been perfect for salad or taco. Not now, of course, squished all over the sidewalk. Soon it would turn brown, and the next pedestrian to pass this way might have a harder time naming it. For now it was an amorphous shape, no longer looking like avocado, and when the smooth, delicious flesh had turned black and mottled brown, it would resemble nothing at all like anything anyone would ever want to eat. Oh. Had it dropped from the sky or grown unnoticed on the azalea? In some ways, I'm sorry we squished this bumpy, shiny fruit. No one else would be stopped by it now. But without smashing it, would we have discerned its identity? What made us so ready to destroy this harmless thing? Did that small mystery threaten our peace of mind? It was only a miniature mystery with its lowly sidewalk resting place. Its destruction provided no illumination. We still had no useful answers. Whose was it? How did it come to be lost, deserted, and abandoned on the busy city street side? And what would the salad be now without the fruit? There are more conclusions to be mounted, many unfinished stories to be told of the avocado on the edge of the sidewalk. True story. Next one is called Watch the Clock. Watch the clock. I think I watch the clock. Do you? Well, you say you do, but actually you may be just marking time. So the clock is not so much watched as checked at intervals. And as far as time goes, Since there is nothing to mark it with, you are more remarking upon it. But then remarking suggests you already marked it once. So admit it. You don't really watch the clock, nor your watch either. Want to know who does? The cat. He lounges comfortable on the top step of the hall stair, regarding the cuckoo clock. Every half hour he is rewarded for his patience. When the painted wooden cuckoo bursts out with a whir of gears and a thwack of his dwarfen door to repeat his ridiculous song, cuckoo. Though the cat's expression does not change, his piercing gaze is rewarded, and so he remains. He is simply watching the clock. We have a very intelligent cat, by the way, so he may be doing more than just watching for the cuckoo. I can't swear. This next little bit is called The Empty Stroller. For several months after the baby was born, I went to lend a hand and a sympathetic heart. One task was to fix the flat tire on the stroller. The bicycle shop could fix it while I waited, so I patiently stood in line. One after another, ladies stepped up, leaned over with smiles already prepared, lighting up their faces, until they saw the stroller empty and skewered me with eyes full of accusations. What? Child abuse? Dementia that I had lost the babe on the way to Rick's bike shop? Insanity that I pushed a babyless carriage? I have yet to understand what thoughts the ladies were besieged by. Fortunately, we never spoke, so I could simply revel in the presence of this new life and the joy of his parents, and could enjoy the fulfillment of being there to help. 3 days a week I went to help, flew down to Tampa to cradle a new grandson in my arms. He was really new, just a month old, and he was also really, truly grand. I never thought of the significance of those terms before those days. Grandma could as easily have been old ma, grumpy ma, wrinkly ma, smelly old ma. Instead, generations one step away gain gravitas, a veneer of acceptance like a sugar candy coating. Grandchild, grandmother, great aunt, great great uncle. Ah, the beauty of selective memory and the silence of strangers. We all benefit from it. Happiness would be harder without. So, on a little more serious note, this next piece is called The Knife in the Sink. A knife in the sink sounds ominous. Though knives get washed like any other piece of flatware, perhaps say a spoon in the sink, a fork in the sink, or the road. At any rate, take it. For the fork in the road, you make a choice, maybe a life-changing decision. For the fork in the sink, you wash it, rinse it, dry it, and tuck it back in a drawer, obviously not life-shattering. The spoon fares the same until the dish kidnaps it. You know the tune. Hey diddle diddle, the cat and the fiddle, the dish ran away with the spoon. But a knife conjures images of blood, of murder most foul, drama, pathos, betrayal. And that is what I am talking about. You see, Aunt was washing dishes. Was she arguing with her sister? Probably. I think they did that a lot. The water was deep and hot. The suds fluffed well above her elbows. In that tiny kitchen, I wonder they could even fit 4 bodies together, the 2 sisters and 2 of their kids, though the laundry chute in the wall by the hall would offer a quick exit if things went kaput. Aunt suddenly threw her hands in the air, blood flying everywhere. No panic, no tears for those ladies raised on a farm, but plenty of recriminations. How could you cut your hand like that? Are you crazy? No one cuts their hand in a dishpan. You had to really try to do that. Are you starved for attention? Maybe you should see a psychiatrist. If only the outcry had been, oh my, that looks bad. Here, let me bind it in a towel. It's clean. We can put pressure on the wound to stop the bleeding. If we can't stop it, we'll have to call the doc. Or maybe we should call a vet. He'll get here quicker and he does a great job. Sometimes it would be a pleasure to rewrite history. Too late. I'm sure Sister bundled right out the door and home, never knew if Aunt had stitches or not. So the knife in the sink was indeed a dangerous weapon. It didn't kill Aunt outright, though it did a lot to sever ties with her sister. Cunning, stealthy, hardened steel, ready without warning to cut to the bone, right to the quick, the coup de grace of one sister to another. What had lain in wait so long that the knife in the sink could slay the bond with that one swift, innocent stroke? How y'all doing? Okay, our next is called procedure. And this one's interactive, so you're welcome to think and participate. Procedure. How do you proceed through life? Do you watch first to see how others do it? Or do you walk resolutely, 1 foot forward at a time? Do you go left, right, or back into it looking at where you were? Do you rush forward blindly, or jump 2-footed from one stance to the next, sure of your ground, static, in place? Me? Though it may not get me anywhere, I would rather dance. This next selection came about because it was our first couple of weeks of the pandemic, when we were stuck at home, afraid to go anywhere. We were washing our packages, and it was a whole new experience. And it's called Falling Up. I was actually going to call the book Falling Up, and then I did a little research and found out that there are a lot of books already called Falling Up. I think Shel Silverstein has a very famous one already, so I thought, oh well, back to the drawing board. Anyway, this is Falling Up. I arch back far beyond comfort, nearly falling off my feet, very nearly overcome by a most unusual sight. Relishing this unfamiliar view, reveling in this little patch of sky, upside down this ever-changing square seduces like the sirens whose imagined songs lured mariners to their deaths, smashed on the rocks as their ships splintered, rocked on the angry waves. This small blue jewel of a square, ever-changing, unpredictable, its roguish geometry draws as surely as the fall toward earth of the skydiver swimming downward weightless, sorely tempted to postpone ever again pulling the ripcord to slow the inevitable descent. Falling through the blue, through frozen wisps of cloud, risking everything for a breath-stealing moment, just one more moment of ecstasy, the rushing, accelerating wind, stealing breath, demanding surrender. But where the skydiver risks all, smashing brains all over the cornfields of Ohio, Falling Up only risks a failure to return. Ecstasy is only an imagined dream. And perhaps this is the greater gamble, for the body only straightens up to see again pink and gray brick walls enclosing the square of sky. The triad of classic horses mounted on a nail, galloping forever in fiberglass, a metaphor for lives long lost, yet seeming to challenge the wind. Turning a skydiver's vertical plunge 90 degrees on its axis, to fall up so I can turn it 90 degrees again, to fall up away from this upside-down world. The skydiver feels this razor edge governed by the pull of gravity. I, in my courtyard, must find the savor of boundless blue by the reckless effort of my own mind. And we walk constantly around the neighborhood, and one day not too long ago, I walked by a stone wall that was about my shoulder height, and I looked up and realized that I was looking up at a daisy. which I don't think I've ever done before. Being 5 foot some tall and a daisy being only about 10 inches was an unusual experience. Anyway, this is called Behind a Daisy. Today I stood behind a daisy. Its face addressed the sun. My face lay in shadow. The flower outshone my form. A daisy stem grows narrow. Though narrow, it stands tall. Startlingly tough, those narrow stalks. They crush and bend, but do not fail. I always thought daisies frivolous, with their yellow faces and silly small white petals, their narrow, hairy leaves. But steadfast strength is worthy of a strong dose of respect and admiration, so therefore I must admit it changed my mind just so. And next, this is just called Violet. Violet blue, violet purple, violet scented, violet hued, violet pink, pastel violet, violet young and lovely. Violet was one of the company. We were modern dancers, barefoot and capezio clad. She was always the best of us. Not only was she beautiful, like a living fairy with her blonde hair, her delicate features imperturbable. Even when the lighting didn't work or the music tape broke mid-measure, even when her foot slipped landing from Grand Jeté, or someone's costume caught in the weights of the curtains swinging closed. The piece ended, she took her bows with grace and dignity, acknowledging the applause without ego, merely upholding her part. Violet pink, violet blue, shading to purple. Violet grown to saturated color, deepened with experience. As life goes on, young women become wives and mothers. She too started a family, and we all, including her, expected our performances to go on as they had in the company, working hard, pouring ourselves like water into the joy of life and creation. Our lives were accustomed to the accepted flow of rehearsal, performance, taking our bows, celebrating, resting, then preparing again. Violet, purple, fade to black. As we all know, life doesn't always run smoothly. Someone's foot gets caught in the curtain, but life isn't as inconsequential as a pratfall in a dance. In Violet's case, her pregnancy was hard work. As the final act began, it didn't proceed as planned. Instead of a baby making a triumphant entrance, sliding into the world, the cord wrapped around his neck. Heartbeats and breathing ceased more than once. The joyfully anticipated day instead grew into a terror-filled night in a hospital ward. Her terrified husband left to get a drink, and his insides forgot to come back once the baby was born. Violet blue, violet purple like her baby's face. Violet violently left in her own way. The baby was safe in the hospital nursery, but Violet, lovely, violet-hued, was wrapped in a sheet to save her from herself. Violet flowers are surprisingly long-lived. As delicate as they are, you can boil them with sugar so they look alive. You can decorate a cake with them and savor their taste, surprising, sharp, and sweet. In the lawn, you can mow them down and they come back, the leaves bright, strong, deep green veined and unmarred by the experience. They stay green when the other plants are starved yellow or wilted, parched, and brown. 3 months after Violet's baby was born, she was finally allowed home. She was home with strict instructions on how to survive each day. She called and asked if I could come and exercise with her to build her strength again. At her front door, she greeted me, but her eyes were elsewhere. Worst of all, with her collapsed body and vacant eyes, was the constant pursing and working of her lips. Her lips working seemingly of their own volition. Oh, dear Violet, lovely violet-hued, I stayed with you, watching, fascinated, appalled, my eyes attempting without success to look anywhere but at those uncontrolled lips, lips not capable of any emotion or conscious reaction, only that ceaseless working in and out, pursing and pouting over and over. You must know how it feels for your heart to bleed for another. Oh, how my heart bled for her each day that we moved together, trying new exercises, hoping to bring back the friend so loved and admired. Months went by, and little by little she did heal. She did come back and dance again, the best of us. But underneath, a warm, dark sadness never went away. Her warm, dark sadness is here with me now. My lips purse and pout, but only when I'm not paying attention. There is no drama in my life, no near-death experience. So why this strange visitation? What is the source of this apparition, the recurring vision of those pursing lips? I see hers, but I know these are mine, pursing and pouting uncontrolled, not smiling, happy, or snarling in anger, but trembling, nerveless. I think I feel them, but cannot stop them. The feeling is more like a memory or a morning dream, remembered vaguely as the day passes, but this one won't let me wake up. Purple lightens to violet, and violet just this side of pink. Pink blooming in the distance fills me with hope. Someone will come and teach me how to come back. Someone can erase the picture of helpless lips. Someone must stop the fires and viruses, floods and madmen. Someone will come freely and willingly to help. Someone whose loving hand will reach out to mine. Maybe that someone is already here. The lesson is already loose in my mind. The picture of Violet, so strong and vivid, is here to teach me that as my heart reached out to her, in her healing, she reached equally out to me. The memory of Violet changing to a reminder to lead me back from the brink of despair. Violet purple, violet blue, violet to violet pink, to violet, violet pink, to her, Violet. And here's a selection from the book that Charlie Brow and I are doing to honor Radnor. We love Radnor. We go there all the time. He takes photographs, I write poetry. And we were just talking one day and said, well, why don't we do that together? And we thought, oh, good idea. So we have, and we have a sample of it here tonight. It has not yet been published. We're working on that. So anybody with any brilliant ideas of how to publish this wonderful book, we would love to hear it. So this one is called Fly, Heron, Fly. Fly, heron, fly. The lake is your mirror. You fish in the sky. Great blue heron, as you scan the clouds for your prey, do you wonder how your beak can pierce the blue sky and grasp a fish, a meal as silvery as the lake on a rainy day? When you fly up high from the water's edge to perch in a hackberry tree, do you imagine seeing a small fry swish by as you approach your eyrie? For the reflection of sky and still water can be hard to distinguish one from the other, no matter how hard you try. The three dimensions converge at the surface until one seemingly becomes the other. Perception only governed by the pull of earth and the work it takes to resist its force. Then there's the fourth division of time. Oh, great heron, as you dip and float from reflection to tree, voicing your prehistoric cry, you could belong to ages long past, the time of dinosaurs before the meteor. And yet your voice is here now, foreign and strange, but heard nonetheless. Great blue heron, is your name just a description of your color and size, as opposed to green or night? Or does it refer to the magic of your occupation, fishing in water that looks like blue sky, and flying through sky like swimming in water from one eon to the next. One of my favorites. I love blue herons anyway. This other one, I'm a little hesitant, but somehow in this day and age when there's so much anger around us and so many awful things happening, I felt like this needed to be said. It's called The Rapist. Little boy, who didn't love you or said they did but hurt you? Who told you you were what you weren't or demanded so much you could only lie in return? Who couldn't see the precious, wondrous spear of light that is you somewhere underneath, inside, afraid to come out for fear? And next, this is from the third book, Salt and Water. It's called Heart Girth. And those of you who know horses know that the heart girth on a horse we actually measure. And it lies behind their withers, literally over their heart. And if you lay your hand there, kind of a magic thing happens. You can feel the beat of their heart, you can hear it, but you can also, in a funny way, connect to them at a deeper level that we call the heart. So this is called Heart Girth. It is curious that someone can demand courage of you, draw it out without a word, just by the fact of their being, their proximity to yourself, their very presence expanding your character, insisting that you trust your heart, take a longer step, wear bigger boots, confront the very things that can terrify you to dissolution. I can recall laying my hand on the heart girth of my lovely Trakehner gelding. In his beauty, his gentleness, and far-flung gaze, he pulled me out of my ordinary self, facing a distant scene, a place beyond what my eyes could see, to a world somewhere beyond the western horizon. He would stand for time on end, longing toward the west, as the sun went down, with nothing in sight to engage his interest. And on a time we would stand together, me with my hand laid over his heart, sharing that nameless longing. Still, in that moment, feeling the deep warmth beneath the silky, dappled coat, I feared I could never live up to the depth of his courage or the breadth of his heart. And this next is also, if you bear with me, I have a few more poems to read. This is called A Ladder to the Moon. I thought I'd call the book that too, but doggone, a bunch of people have already named their books A Ladder to the Moon, so it'd just be the title of a poem. A Ladder to the Moon. One fine day, Seymour decided to take action. Enough is enough, he said, and right then and there, that very moment, without an instant's delay, he began. His first task, it seemed to Seymour, was to identify the best place to start. He would build it step by step, and, because his decision was to be everlasting, he needed to anchor it in the proper location, one that made a clear statement of his intent. Shifting sands would be no good, nor would the waves of the ocean, for though it is constant, the rolling tide holds still for no man. Bedrock was the only choice, for everlasting work takes an eternity, and an eternity must include peace and rest. And to form a foundation, the living rock would accept the weight of his creation without complaint. The second day was cloudy, and the second step proved difficult to aim in the right direction. Seymour decided to wait for the cloud cover to depart, and when the clouds finally hurried away, he was left with the light of the moon. All right, he said, and soon the second step stood proud and straight. By the third day, the steps attracted attention. What are you doing there? Did you ask permission? Who showed you how to do that? Nobody else is. You better stop right now. Seymour paused. and turned to look into the eyes of the gathering crowd. On another day, before his one fine day, normal life for him as just another man, Seymour would have listened to all those voices, assumed they were more knowledgeable than he, would have cleaned up his mess and gone home. But enough was indeed enough. Seymour's decision had changed him. His purpose had given him strength and courage, so right or wrong, he was standing his ground. Those steps took on a life of their own. Day followed after day, and still Seymour persisted. Some days the work was so hard he thought he might quit. Still, some days filled him with energy yet again. At the same time, more people crowded around. Every day, more complaints than compliments poured into his ears, but still he carried on. One day, he was even visited by the governor, who implored Seymour to listen to reason when no one else could put a stop to Seymour's work. But Seymour just looked him in the eye and carried on. What a man Seymour had become. What a figure in the mythos of the town. He would not be deterred by criticism, sarcasm, or command. Now that the top was so high it was lost to sight, Seymour only rarely showed his face. He was endlessly busy at the top. Finally, the president was called, so when Seymour descended for supplies the next time, the great leader stopped him, saying with a smirking smile, "What you doing, son? Building a stairway to the stars?" And Seymour replied with a quiet, answering smile, "No, sir, just a ladder to the moon." So there. And this next is salt and water. Salt and water, water and salt, the liquid part that fills the heart. Love guides us, grasps our hands, if only we allow it. Offers the means to become another, in understanding if not in person. Sweet water. There is the difference between grasping the sights before our eyes and reveling in the sights available before our eyes are opened to let in the outside world, to love the world within. Oh, loveliness floats into the brain when here and now is valued more than when or then. Words are cheap. Actions come hard. Rocks can be worn away by water. Water left by the tides again becomes salt. Salt buried and squeezed by earth becomes hard, impervious to all but water. We can say it is not, but you know it's true. Water and salt, salt and water. And one last one. This is actually a new one. It happened over the holidays, and I'm so in love with it. I just want to share it with everyone. It's called Gingerbed Might Be the Answer. We all live together, my love, my cat, and me. Just like the horse whisperer told me years ago, every day that you train, you're getting worse or getting better. You never stay the same. My love and me, one step at a time, are growing better, but the trajectory is never a straight line. We're simply damn lucky that our lines of fire are so curved that when they hit the target, they hit the same dime. Now our cat, you might say, is an enigma of the highest water. Over the years, he has grown, expanded from a little tyke to a fine gentleman far too large for a lap. He's got all the luck. We should have consulted the gods and given him their name, Tyche, just so they know we got it. Though he's one of the family, and without doubt he enjoys our company, Cat mostly prefers us at a distance of about 3 feet. Perhaps his true self is larger than he appears, and rather than the 19 inches we see of his mortal form, he really is a tiger in disguise. No wonder he is uncomfortable being held on our knees. For us to manhandle him is taking far too many liberties. So which of these is his true self? The one I can measure with a stick, or the one I imagine in disguise? In any case, with Gingerbed, our true selves are exposed. In this holiday time, when I am molding molasses and flour into fantastic works of culinary art, bygone scenes of bygone times, Horses and sleighs, fairies and elves, even a gnome or two, live in a gingerbread castle dusted with sugar, surrounded by an aluminium moat. The number of cookies inevitably increase, and their scent rises swirled in clouds of memories, sweet stories of wished-for times that really never happened. What makes the airs in the kitchen so sweet and alluring is not so much the sugar and spice, but my love and my cat, who lift their noses with the gingerbread fumes and swear up and down it's their last and best wish to imbibe my cookie delights. My love, so sweet that he doesn't need them to eat, tucks in and smiles in satisfaction. I know that really gingerbread he could do without, and yet he dispenses warm hugs and outrageous compliments. The best gingerbread ever. You should make more. Next year. What makes the warmth of the kitchen such a perfect place to be on this holy day of days is not the number on the thermostat, but the soft, warm cat, somehow comfortable on my lap, purringly begging gingerbread. Delicacy and manners personified, he gracefully nibbles just the corner of my treat. He sweetly rubs his jawbone on my sleeve and accepts another morsel with a purr and a blink. Another, and then, the cookie gone, he offers one more caress, jumps down, and goes along. The surprise that I discovered that made me love him more, like the unexpected icing on a cake, were the little chunks of gingerbread I spied later scattered under the table on the floor. So Kat's love of cookies of that morning was a seamless performance, a holy day mummer's play of love and devotion, riding on the tide of gingerbread that my love and my cat, sweetly lying through their teeth, consumed just to indulge their affection for me. And I have one more. This one is just called You. If I had a do-over, what would I do? I would love you better than I have done, loved you more, valued you more, taken the time and effort to understand you more, and in that way stood up for myself more, for it is more in how we treat others that ultimately defines how much we truly value ourselves. So that's it. If you like, I have brought 2 or 3 more, or we can call it a night. Take a vote. Does anyone want to hear another one? Yes? Okay. One more, and then I promise I will zip it. This one is called The Old Stone Wall. And it's a true story, by the way. I came across a woman crying in the street, sitting on an old stone wall. How could I pass her? She was staring straight ahead, sobbing so hard her shoulders shook. How could I leave her? I sat down beside her on the old stone wall, put an arm around her shoulders. My other hand covered hers for comfort. Her head sunk further. She leaned forward into me, and broken phrases poured out, cascaded down the old stone wall. My husband is dead, she said. I don't know what to do. I could only listen and gently pat her hand, and as gently took her handbag and laid it on the wall. She grated out, "Who will I cook breakfast for?" Sniffed softly, "Who will care if I clean the house?" The words tumbled messily down the old stone wall. "I've never done the taxes," said she, and looked at me, "nor kept the accounts at the bank. Don't know if he wants to be buried, don't know what to give his friends or who to thank." The words softly dwindled away as we sat side by side on the old stone wall. "You've been very kind," were the last words I heard as she stood and turned to go, gathering her handbag and buttoning her coat, and her stocking snagged on the wall. Such a small, sad figure she cut as she stumbled away, small, stooped, and alone, She left me sitting on the old stone wall, a cold, hard seat, feeling sorry and sad, wishing I'd offered wise words. I'd only listened and patted her hand. Days later, I passed the same wall. No one was sitting there then. There was only the tender memory of that sad, lost lady, lost without her helpmeet. I still feel her small, soft hand, and my only question remaining, when my hand had covered hers, is this: who was being comforted as she leaned against my side, sitting on the old stone wall? For as sad as I felt on hearing her words, there was also a sense of groundedness. We gained it from each other as we sat. That small, sad lady who molded her side to mine gained comfort for sure, and she in turn showed me the value of a good stone wall. The stones of a wall must fit tight for the wall to stand very long, and each stone nestles into another. Neither one nor the other can stand long alone. So, thank you, everybody. Thank you.